Return to Us, a Fire Emblem fanfiction by Robin, Queen of Ylisse. Chapter 9, Present Time. My lord, I do hope I'm not interrupting. A voice spoke out from behind Chrom, shaking the assembled shepherds back into reality. Chrom turned around to find Kyun, a fellow shepherd and the captain of the Elysian Royal Guard and the Pegasus Knights. The woman was clad in light blue armor, her brown hair tied back into a ponytail behind her, and a band that wrapped around her head which was attached to a patch which covered the place where her right eye had once been. "No, it's fine. What is it, Kyun?" Chrom asked as he rose to his feet. "I'm here to inform you that the final preparations have been made and the men are ready to move out." Chrom nodded as he realized how much time had passed. The shepherds were quick to get into action as they made their way to the armory. Chrom walked out along with them, Lucina holding tightly onto his hand as she watched the soldiers prepare to move out. "My lord, you can't expect me to," Frederick complained, but Chrom cut him short. "I know you don't want to stay behind, but I need someone I can trust to watch over Lucy, and you have your own little one to look after." Frederick's face turned a light shade of red as he forced himself to swallow down his pride. If you insist, my lord," Frederick muttered, doing his best to hide the disappointment in his voice. "Yo, Blue!" Gaius called out, drawing the Exalt's attention. "We gotta go!" "Thank you, Frederick," Chrom said, turning back to the knight as he began to leave. With a low bow, Frederick answered politely. "It's my duty, my lord. Good luck on your journey." "Yay!" An excited voice said from beside Frederick as the small toddler tackled one of his legs in a hug. "Uncle Frederick is staying!" Frederick couldn't help but smile at little Lucina. Lucy always enjoyed Uncle Frederick and Aunt Sumia's company, and while Frederick often struggled to keep the devious little princess in line, Chrom's daughter had grown on him. Frederick turned to walk back to the castle, Lucy following close behind. It was a relief to finally be back. The journey into Valm hadn't been a very long one, but it didn't keep the prince and the princess from being glad to see their home again. Lucina had set out to Valm with Morgan some time ago, as they both had hoped to follow a lead that could uncover information about finding their mother. However, like every previous attempt, they had come up with nothing, and Lucina hated to admit it, but her faith was faltering. For 3 years, they had been preying on something Naga herself had said was a slim chance. Lucina had predicted that it would be no easy task to free her mother from Grima's grasp, but she hadn't expected that so many years would pass without so much as a sign that the queen still lived. All she could do now was hope that Danos' venture would prove more fruitful as she stepped into Ylisse. They were greeted at the castle gates by Frederick, the loyal knight having received word of their approach. From Frederick, Lucina learned that her father had set out to handle a risen threat and would likely to be returning within the day. Additionally, and much to her disappointment, Danos had yet to return, his whereabouts currently unknown to Frederick. For now, there was little to do but to look forward to her father's return. "Morgan! Sina!" A young voice exclaimed aloud as a little girl in a light blue dress rushed onto the scene, interrupting Lucina's thoughts. Frederick turned quickly and Morgan kneeled down to catch the girl in an embrace. "Hi Lucy, it's good to see you too," Morgan said with a large grin. "How have you been?" He smiled, rubbing the young princess's head. "Great!" Lucy exclaimed as she moved to hug the older Lucina. Lucy had always viewed the future children as her older brother and sister. While she didn't entirely understand where they were from or how they had come to be here, she knew they were family, and that was more than enough for her. "You're supposed to be taking your nap," Frederick scolded, and Lucy looked up at him with a guilty smile. "It's fine, Frederick. I can watch her for you." Lucina smiled as beside her, Lucy jumped up and down excitedly. With a sigh, Frederick gave in, perfectly willing to hand the burden of the young princess to someone else, while Lucina was glad to accept the distraction. Lucina led young Lucy across the courtyard until they came to a specific place along the castle wall, where they slipped through a concealed hole in the outer wall and out to the fields beyond. Not far from the opening was a large hill, the peak of which housed a lone tree. The spot had always been a favorite amongst her family, and she had fond memories of picnics with her parents and brother. She sat under the shade of the tree as Lucy ran around, flourishing her wooden sword in extravagant gestures. "Hey, Sina?" Lucy asked, addressing the older Lucina with a nickname that Lucy had come up with. What is it? Can you teach me how to fight with a sword like you do?" Lucina was caught off guard by the suddenness of the request, yet it didn't surprise her much. Lucy was the same age she had been when she had first started asking her father to teach her swordplay. However, Lucina had never considered that young Lucy might ask her to teach. I don't know. I think it would be better if you asked father. "Aw, please," Lucy begged with the same puppy dog look that Lucina remembered using in her own childhood. "You fight just as well as Daddy does, and who could teach me better than you? Please?" Young Lucy begged, and Lucina gave in with a sigh, impressed with the girl's enthusiasm. "I suppose I can show you a bit," she answered, receiving an energetic response. The small exercises Lucina ran Lucy through had no real purpose, but it thrilled the little girl to no end, which in turn made Lucina happy. Going over the simple techniques reminded Lucina of the countless times she had spent training with her father, and a smile came over Lucina's face as a particular memory came to her. "Thank you, father," Lucina said as the two finished their training exercise for the day. "It still feels strange to hear you call me that," Crom muttered as he looked up into the clear sky. "Do you not like it?" Lucina asked cautiously, and Crom turned to face her with a reassuring smile. No. It's not that I dislike it. It's just different. It's a lot to comprehend that I have a child here from the future." "I see. Just don't tell your mother," he said, his expression turning playful. "You know how she can be. From what I remember, you seem to tell mother everything. In the future, I mean. The two of you were always so close." Lucina laughed, answering her father's smile with one of her own. "Oh, come on now. You make us sound like two fawning lovebirds," Crom said as he ran a hand through his hair, his head turning several shades of red. "I'm sure we'd never embarrass ourselves, especially at court. Your mother would never allow it." "So you say, but your blush speaks otherwise," Lucina teased, enjoying her father's awkward response. "It feels good to share a secret once more. It's been far too long. You were always sharing little tidbits with me when I was young." Was the future me really so furtive? I don't think myself as a man to keep many secrets. Crom frowned as Lucina chuckled once more. "Oh, they were just pointless, silly little things, really, but it always gave me a thrill to hear them." "So I wasn't furtive, just a hopelessly doting father." Crom shrugged as a devious grin began to spread across Lucina's face, and Crom raised a curious eyebrow. "Although, there was one little thing you never told me." "Oh?" "The story how you and mother fell in love," Lucina answered excitedly, and Crom's face turned another shade of scarlet as he stuttered with his response. "Well, that's not the kind of story a daughter needs to hear. It's certainly one this daughter would like to hear." "Well, Crom coughed, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Alright then," Lucina said as she picked up one of the practice swords she had discarded earlier. "How about a little wager? If I manage to defeat you, you have to tell me." I'm not sure that's a good..." "So sure you're going to lose?" Lucina teased once more and smiled as she saw the flash in her father's eyes as he grunted defiantly. His pride wouldn't allow him to back down from a challenge, a little detail that Wake had shared with her in the past. "Very well then, I accept," he answered, taking up the practice sword that lay beside him. "Then be ready, father. I am serious about hearing that story," Lucina exclaimed as she took a combat stance, a broad smile still painted over her expression. "And I am serious about not telling it," Crom answered, mirroring Lucina's movements. A brief moment of silence followed, only broken by the sound of wood against wood, both sides determined to win. "Lucina, Lucina's? Morgan called from the gap in the castle wall, Lucina and Lucy giggling at their brother's loss for words, and Morgan coughed, clearing his throat before speaking again. "Both of you, father is approaching Ylisse. He'll be here in a few minutes." "We'll be right there," the future child shouted back, ushering the younger princess back towards the castle. "Father!" both Morgan and Lucina exclaimed in unison as they ran over to greet the exiled as the shepherds walked onto the castle grounds. Crom extended out his arms as he took both children into an embrace, young Lucy managing to find her way in between everyone, and they welcomed her into the group. For a long moment, the four remained like this, and as the moment passed, the children backed away, each with smiles stretched across their faces. "It's great to see the two of you again," Crom said as the group continued into the castle. "It's great to be back, father," Morgan said with a grin. "We had a fascinating adventure." "What happened? What happened?" Lucy asked excitedly, bouncing in anticipation. Morgan chuckled as he picked up young Lucy, beginning to recount the events of his travels as he carried the young princess off. "Is something bothering you?" Crom asked Lucina, Morgan having taken Lucy well out of earshot. It's nothing, don't worry," Lucina answered, but her father wasn't convinced. "Lucina, if something is wrong, you can tell me. I'm your father after all," Crom urged, and Lucina returned a weak smile. "I know, it's just... after everything..." Lucina shook her head as she tried to fight back the emotions that wanted to break free. Crom put an arm around his daughter in an effort to comfort her. "We couldn't find anything about Mother." Lucina sighed, finally giving in to her father's persistence. I feel as if I failed you, as though everything I've done in the past years has amounted to nothing." "Lucina, you could never fail me," Crom said tenderly, and Lucina gave a faint smile. "I know how hard you've tried, and I couldn't ask for anything more." Lucina stifled a tear as Crom embraced her tightly, only letting her go once she had recollected herself. "Thank you, father," she muttered weakly, and Crom kissed her lightly on the forehead. "Why don't you get some rest? I'll see you once dinner has been prepared," Crom said, and Lucina nodded before heading off down one of the many long hallways. With the return of Crom and the shepherds that had accompanied him, the room was crowded and noisy once more, much to Lucy's delight. She sat with the young Manekid Na, both of them listening intently to Morgan's story as he explained the details of their journey through Volm. "Hey, Daddy?" Lucy asked not long after Morgan finished. Crom looked up curiously at his daughter before she continued. "Can you continue the story about Mother?" All eyes had turned to the exiled now, as he seemed to think about the request. "Well, Crom began as he leaned back into his chair. "Please?" young Lucy begged. "Could you, father?" The elder Lucina joined in and Crom submitted with a warm smile. "Well, if you insist. It was the day of the Feroxy tournament.